Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Dan, thanks for joining us today. What I would love to kick off is tell us a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, and how you even got connected into FranCamp.
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, just want to say thanks for having me on here. I think this is actually really good practice until I get on to Charles' podcast. So appreciate you inviting me on here.
I'm not sure. Wait, I think that's a dig all over the place.
No, I appreciate you having me. But Dan Feltman with the Garage Floor Company, co-founder with another guy, got into you guys actually through Charles. He started working on some trademark work for us, and now he became our lawyer and I've been to all 3 FranCamps from here on out. So really enjoyed it, and loved learning about you guys and learning about the system and stuff like that. So Jeff and I have enjoyed the ride and being on it.
So you go to this first one in Chicago of 22, is that right? 23? 23. Yeah. You go there. Were your expectations just to network? What was the reason? Did you go just because Charles said you need to go? How do you even get involved, and then what has it turned into for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't really know what to expect in the very beginning. When Charles reached out to us and said, "Hey, we want you guys to come to this," really had no clue what it even was, and we were fairly new to the franchise game, anyways. Still learning everything, but we didn't have a clue what FranCamp was all about, and things like that. And he's just like, "I'll just show up." And so Jeff and I just kind of went, and we're always willing to learn. And so we thought, if we're there with other people that are like-minded like this, maybe we'll learn something that we don't know about franchising and things like that. And then also be able to network with people to pick their brain to kind of help us along. I think the biggest thing we wanted to do is to learn, because we didn't learn anything. We didn't know anything going into it. And like you always said, go back to day one of franchising. What do you know about it? And no one has a clue. And like you say, no one even knows to this day what franchising really is. And I think that's kind of our journey. Is we just wanted to learn, what is franchising? Like, what is this whole thing about? Because we're doing it and we didn't even know. So we kind of got into it before we even knew. We jumped in before we knew what franchising really was all about.
Dan, there's other you're on this journey, emerging franchisor. You enter the franchise space, things are foreign, business isn't, but the franchise world, the mechanics. I mean, you guys are working hard. You're right. You come to FranCamp. Now you've been through 3. What are some of the key elements you're taking away and advice for other franchisors out there, emerging brands? Not only the value of FranCamp, but really the pieces you're putting together as a result of FranCamp and what you're working on.
Yeah, so I think the key ones that we've kind of learned, like the first one was kind of like an all-inclusive learning about franchising and what it is. And then obviously this past year with Chicago, we learned about, brand story and how important that is to tell your story and find your why and things like that. So that was a big takeaway for us. And then we go to Miami thinking that we knew what we even want, and we didn't even get it right at that time. And Miami, we were learning more about numbers and budgeting and things like that, which we still had no clue about. And that's something we're still working on. But we ended up circling back to our brand story and our website and things like that. So we kind of worked with those workbooks that we got through FranCamp. We're still even going back to them. The first one from Chicago, even though we're on section 2 of another workbook, we still have that other one that we're kind of working on, and we're kind of rehashing and revisiting a lot of things, and just trying to learn those different avenues. But I think the biggest takeaway for us from both of them this past year was our brand story, and then how to get our brand story out there through budgeting and marketing.
Are you comfortable if I press you on something with a positive conclusion?
Sure.
I mean, if you said no, I was still going to do it. So
That's what I figured.
so you've sold how many franchises so far in this journey?
One.
Okay. And that one is to who's the franchisee?
Say that again.
Who's the franchisee?
He's Andy. He's in Nashville, Tennessee.
And he came into your system when?
So it'd have been almost 3 years ago.
Okay, so organically, not through the broker networks, and
not a broker. We had an FSO that sold it for us, so that's how he came in. Yeah.
So here's and I want your opinion on this, because obviously you've had deep conversations with Charles and I on this. I'm going to paint your journey because I think it's so familiar to a lot of brands. No bullshit. You and Jeff are awesome human beings. I just posted this on LinkedIn. I did an interview with a franchisee this morning from another brand, and I said, "What caused you not to buy, and what caused you to buy this brand?" And he's like, 100% culture. I went into all these other brands. He went through discovery days, super well capitalized, and he goes, I just believed in the leaders who were behind it, and I knew like the business construct was good. And so I say that because I know that the leaders of this company are tremendous, and you've worked hard to build up unit level economics. Now I can look at it still as an outsider and say, I still want the picture of I almost want to meet the visionaries behind your success. I still want you to press really hard down on first responders, because I think that opens up the heartstrings immediately. And it's something, if you just marketed 100% to first responders for franchisees and you gave them deep discounts, I'm saying like no franchise fee for them, something crazy. I think there's a pathway here, but I look at you guys from a distance, because full transparency, you guys aren't our client. So I'm saying this I get paid $0 to say this. Good human beings, good business model in an industry where there is demand, proven it out how to build up scale and how to invest in marketing, understand what your cost per user acquisition is, all these foundational tools, you're putting in the technology pieces. You arguably have and continue to work on things to make it better. You're going to FranCamp with the mindset of, we don't know what we don't know. Let's continue to learn. And so if you said here's the story of Dan and Jeff to me without me ever talking to you, Charles tells me I have a client named Dan and Jeff, here's their background, I'd be like, that sounds like they've done everything right. What do they have? 10 franchisees, 20 franchisees? How's it going into order? And if the answer was 1 and it was an organic franchisee that came 3 years ago and we're not growing, I would have deep confusion on why that's happening. So the press on that long-winded statement is, I feel you have all the tools. Why do you think you're not taking off?
I mean, so we met with Charles last week, and he's told me this 100 times, and this is what I'm really focused in on. Like from here on out, like this is our number one priority, and until we get this implemented, it's not going to move any needles at all. But it literally is getting our brand story out there on our website. Like Charles said, and it's true. And he was just honest. He's like, dude, your main organic sites, the consumer side, that's fine. It looks great, but your franchise sucks. And I don't want to take that lightly, because it does suck and it doesn't get the point across. It doesn't hit everything out there, and it doesn't educate anyone else buying into our system what they're buying. It literally is just like everything else. And it's just basically smoke and mirrors. Like, hey, buy us, we're a garage floor business, and why should you buy us? Oh, because we're cool and we got this and this and this. And like what Charles said is like, hit on your KPIs, hit on your numbers, let them know all that general stuff. Yes, you do all this, but really focus in on who you guys are, because that's the message. And I never understood it, but people, I mean, they do buy businesses to buy businesses, but they actually want to do business with the people they want to do business with. And Jeff and I never really focused in on who we were, like first responders who had an entrepreneurial dream that, dreamed to help other entrepreneurs out there, because we have that, first responder mentality and the good heart to help and make everybody successful. We never focused in on that. and it definitely doesn't say it on our website whatsoever. So I think that's our biggest downfall is when no one knows us. I mean,
what's prevented you from doing it?
Us, 100% us. I mean, it's you learn it, and then if you don't implement it, it's not going to go anywhere. And we did that for so long with every other thing, and you just drag your feet, and you're like, yeah, that's great, and you get all hyped up at like a camp, like you learn from you guys, and you get back, and the biggest thing is no one implements, and including myself, like we just didn't implement it, and now it's like, hey, the fault was on us, and if we don't, realize that, we're not going to move any further. So that was us.
Well, I would. Sorry, Charles, I'm stealing some of the thunder here, but I would. Like as you're talking, Dan, I'm thinking like the operations of being a state patrol, and the reality is obviously there's got to be strong marketing on the front end to know you even call the number 911. So the brand story is perfect. Like, who do you call when you're in trouble? You call 911. But then everything that happens beyond that, and the construct of the call goes into the dispatch calls and it has to locate the nearest solution, whether that's through walkie-talkie or other GPS devices. Then we got to accelerate getting to the scene of whatever the issue is. But then there's a whole operational manual that we have to follow when we get there. And so, in my opinion, what that is, that's the business model that you guys have put together. And if you took a step backwards and used that as a part of your story on why you hire you guys, again, it goes back to my opening statement. I think you have all the ingredients of culture, good human beings, character, hustle, grit, operating your own locations. Like it's such a beautiful story. Maybe it is as simple as what Charles said, is like, go look in the mirror. Your tree's falling in the woods, but it feels like you are 1 inch away from doing it. And if it's you that prevents it, at least through the FranCamp model, you're aware of it.
Yeah. And I think like, it's kind of like an eye opener, like going to the last one. Like we went to the first one, we didn't implement, went to the second one, we had a good time. And, we always have a good time out there. But, the third one, I think it really opened my eyes to everything and really, kind of got my butt in gear and said, hey, let's stop, dragging our feet and let's really go. And that's why I keep continuously support FranCamp. And like I said, I'll continue to go until you guys tell me I can't go anymore. And then when I show up, when I'm not invited and you guys have to kick me out, but I mean, it's an amazing adventure. And I think it's that local, that small feel to help you guys guide us. And it's like focused in on you and like the franchisor, you guys really focus in on us. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for me is to get that support. Like you can't buy that anywhere else. You can't even, I mean, for the amount of money we pay to go to these things, like it's stupid. Like I know we've talked, like you don't make money on it, but it's crazy to get that education from you guys and the support. It's far beyond what I could have ever paid for anyone else.
Dan, I think not too far in the future, you're going to be conducting a FranCamp discussion about this journey and this conversation literally. And because what you're experiencing is what we all experience as entrepreneurs, where we could see other people's businesses, but we really can't identify our own, right? Or get to the heart of it. So any comment I've made or Nick, it's really just a reflection of you and Jeff, right? Who you guys are as stand-up men, how you conduct yourselves and how you feel about your brand, right? And then the disconnect is that mastermind type approach, which is, guys, you're so much more than what your website says, right? And then I think so many, even as business owners ourselves, right? Like what differentiates your law firm if everyone does law versus what differentiates your flooring company. But it does get to those factors of those values, that story, not for sake of telling a story, but so I understand I'm dealing with Dan and Jeff. And I know these guys are stand-up guys and they're going to do what needs to be done for the brand and for the business. And so I'm really happy Yeah, we all struggle with it. I'm happy you're on this journey, but for sure now we're going to document this. I don't know if it's 12 months or 18 months, but I think you're going to get to a point where it's like competitive industry. You know, we invested our dollars, we took advice from all the pros, but we realized, you know what, we got to roll up our sleeves and be in command. And when we did this and started unlocking this story and unlocking our genuine features, we started magnetizing our brand. And I think you're going to tell other franchisors at future FranCamps about selling those first 2 or 3 deals, building that validation. So, you know, I think what's going to look like slow growth over a 5-year time horizon is going to be a very successful company.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah, and like the fun thing about FranCamp is we got fun about it too. I mean, I was ripping your website. Meanwhile, half the things I advise you on, founder video on website and other things, I don't have on my own website. So
can I show your website, Dan?
Absolutely.
I want to show you a few things that I see. Charles, you can give some comments on this. All right, first I look at it from the consumer standpoint on what's your point of differentiation. I see that you're going for the power of the shield, which I actually think is a tremendous place to play in, because if I'm going to do business with a garage floor company, or I'm going to do a business with first responders garage floor company or Army veterans as things continue to expand, that automatically you gave me the veto answer. And so I would explain that right here. Out of curiosity.
Wait, Nick, can I give one thing and you can shoot me down on this? Because Dan and I were talking about it. I said, Nick's going to say it's a stupid idea. But I think they should focus on being entrepreneurial first responders as part of that story.
1,000,000,000%.
Yeah.
I'm not going to shoot that down. I agree with you. Because, like, at the end of the day, like, the picture shouldn't be an empty van with nobody in it. It should be Dan and Jeff saying, like, we're here to protect. Now, I'm gonna skip ahead. So, Dan, if you want this, you better move fast, because all the people that watch this might go buy this URL. Then I was like, well, the garage floor company, co.com, is fine. And I think that's a good one. But then I was like, what would happen if defendandprotectfloors.com, which at least gives you an umbrella that you can now start using defend and protect as a statement for what you do to your franchisees and what you do to your customers. Like, I thought that could be an interesting thing to play through. When I clicked, I was curious what happens if you search for epoxy floors, because, like, clearly epoxy flooring franchise, that's what you're positioning, and epoxy garage floor coatings is what you're positioning. And so in a very simplistic way, and I am not the SEO expert or genius, but the first things that people ask, is it expensive to epoxy a floor? It's like, if you want to build the foundation of your website, knowing exactly what the consumer is going to go through, I would just layer it like this. Is it expensive to epoxy a floor? Is epoxy flooring a good idea? What is the disadvantage of epoxy flooring? Is epoxy floor cheaper than tile? It's like Google's already telling you on the way that the customer works. They might land on your website, but now they're going to try to do their homework. And so when I look what people ask for, it's like that builds the foundation of how you can build this out from a consumer standpoint. Because, like, again, like, I think you're touching on, like, I look at the shields here. I'm like, all right, where should the shield go on a car? You have your logo here at the front. Obviously, I know why. Or the shield in front of the grate. Like, there's other places where it can integrate into all the money that you've already spent on branding, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel and feel like you didn't spend on that stuff. But when I'm looking at, like, how the customer searches for it, what the customer sees, and then just from a very simplistic way, let's see. We'll do garage floor company franchise. Positively, other people are already buying that term. So they're trying to interject with you. And so let's just we'll click on this one. I mean, they got pictures of 3 guys. I don't know what that means. And no better. I mean, I see some, like, that seems interesting to me from a photo, but I would put that at the top. I don't know what these 3 guys are. But okay, so we clicked on this. If now, as a franchise, I'm thinking about, do I want to franchise with someone that's built on first responders and true heroes, or do I want to franchise with just another garage floor company? Point of differentiation there. if I'm a customer, do I want to do business with a garage floor company that is built from the heroes of our community and defend and protecting our floors with our warranties and everything else? Or do I want to just use another company? That's how I start going through that journey. I don't know if this is helpful or not, but those are my
No, I think it's dead on. It's exactly what Charles and I actually talked about. I mean, everything that you're saying is exactly where we need to focus in on is that first responder entrepreneurial, vibe and stuff like that, and getting our point across and getting it a point, to the point quicker, versus having to dive deep into our website to find all that information out.
I think, again, to FranCamp, and we're all on our journeys, right? And Dan, by the way, you talking about us inviting you again, it's really is a privilege to go play golf together and see you guys there. And that's how we're building FranCamp around it, because look, Dan's being modest too. Like, Dan came to the first one, second one, they were working. It's hard to dive deep into this. And what gets me, the frustration part, and why anyone listening come to FranCamp, it's not that there's bad vendors out there. There's great vendors. But a lot of them don't have the time or capability. So they're going to say, this is good or that's fine. Go meet with the brokers. Go have drinks with them. And then when you're sitting there, and the broker's a business person too, it's like, well, what industry you're in? Well, we're garage floor. Well, no, not really. We're a home-based, low startup cost business, A. What are your 3 uniques? Well, industry numbers, garage flooring, in demand, all this stuff that even the brokers, the FSOs, no one knows, but then there's the standout brands, right? So if we stick with the FranCamp formula, well, Jeff and I were first responders and first responder entrepreneurs, and we're going to change lives of future business owners, right? That's our mission. 2, we have great systems, train them how to do it and help them grow. And our KPIs are really solid. Now, all of a sudden, like whatever category, but that's the magic of FranCamp and that type of structured event, which is, it's not just great ideas. It's like, let's do the hard work. And it's not going to be the first go around. That's why Nick has this really pressure-filled schedule for FranCamp events a year, which are challenging for us. I mean, Nick has an easier time producing all this than I do. It's a lot. But like, I know if we stick to it and keep fighting through it, Dan, you're going to be telling that story and you're going to be coaching other franchisors out there. But I think for me, a big takeaway that I'm learning from FranCamp is, don't just, I'm shocked. There's brands I thought are okay with the status quo and maybe we can't move them, and they come back and on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and I'm like, and it's so, like, I think what FranCamp does really well so far is it just helps unlock the founders, right? From, you're not stuck in this really, a formula is not going to work for emerging brands. So this is going to be fun to watch you guys grow. Plus, Jeff's a great guy too. You guys are good guys.
Dan, I have a question for you, but I'm distracted. It's like a Charles distraction. See our comment in the chat.
Bill Clinton? I thought he was in the hospital.
I know. I mean, Bill's joined the chat. Which the best part is then Matt is like, what? Bill Clinton's on the show? Well, Dan wanted Michael Jordan to be our next keynote. We got Bill Clinton to show.
What was Bill asking?
I mean, I don't know that this is even a question for us. How can firms apply dynamic financial models to optimize capital allocation while managing exchange rate risk and regulatory uncertainty? Bill, you might want to go back in the hospital, bro. Looks like that flu bug is messing with your brain. All right, so Dan, here's my question.
Yeah.
Obviously, you look in the mirror and you're like, we need to implement more. We're getting the tools out of FranCamp. We're not implementing for whatever reason, whether it's capital or it's time or it's expertise. Do you feel stressed about where things are at? I mean, obviously you're operating your own beautiful business, but like I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, and I'm like, you know how to get to the finish line. You know what you have to clean up on this last step. You haven't sold franchises the way that probably some consultant who franchised you said you would. And so, like, what give me an insight into the true stress that's behind you and how much it matters to your happiness.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm still owning and operating the local on my side. So building that up this year, I really focused in on being able to get out. Like I was still on the truck every day, like not being able to work on the business. So really focused in this year on trying to get off of it. I think I've done a decent job to do that. And then, so that weighs heavily on the stress of, trying to run a franchise as well, or trying to even, think about selling it, because that's a whole nother business. I mean, that's a full-time gig doing Fran Dev and sales and things like that, and being able to attend all these. So, yeah, I mean, it's war on us, Jeff and I, tremendously. He still owns and operates his as well. He's in Omaha, and he has Arizona as well that he has to worry about. So being able to do that, it's unbelievably stressful. Just trying to figure things out. And I think, it's played a big part on not moving the needle, trying to get back into the local and keep that going, because the local still supports. Jeff and I have supported this out of our pockets since day one, funding it, and our local, sites will fund the bills and things like that. So, I mean, it's been a ride, and I'm not going to say it's been easy at all by any means.
I think you just touched on a secret of businesses that are considering franchising their business, and obviously you've been trying to navigate these waters for several years now, but you just said, like, the stress comes from, I still am operating my business, and majority of emerging franchisors operate their business to build the cash flow to go into the franchise company. But if you really are looking at how do we set up a good business structure, the franchise company almost needs your full-time attention at the same time as your core company. I was talking to another FranCamper, Marina from Your Swim, and I said, what's the magic of you building up some of your momentum right now? And she said, paraphrasing, but basically, like, I got out of the core of my business. I'm letting people operate that, and I'm putting 100% into the vision, the culture, and the execution of the franchise company. I was like, but did anybody tell you that that's what you had to do from a structure standpoint going into this? She's like, no. I was given a FDD and an ops manual and said, you're a franchise. And so, I think it's a very important nugget that if you're going to franchise your business, understand if you give anything less than 40 hours a week, or you don't outsource it, like, it might not get like fast momentum simply because there's not enough hours in the day to put against it. Is that a right statement?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's 100% correct. Jeff and I, we got into it just like probably most people do, is, a lot of people tell you, hey, you got a good model, you should go, you can sell 1 million of these. And we made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, joining different all-inclusive, all packaged people saying, hey, we'll write your ops manual, we'll write this, we'll write your FDD, and you just go out and sell, and you all you have to do is just sell and you'll be fine. Without being able to really support it. And like you talk, if you don't have the money in the beginning to do it, you probably shouldn't do it. And Jeff and I kind of got into it a little fast, I think, in the beginning, without knowing any of the information. We just kind of jumped in. So, I mean, I think you hit it correctly when you said that. I mean, it's exactly it, for sure.
I said this to you in Miami, and I do mean this genuinely. And you've already said it. Like, Charles and I aren't making money off of FranCamp, but we're not bullshitters though. Like, ultimately, like, we're going to build up network of people that if we earn their trust, they're going to want to work with our businesses. So we'll make money in certain ways. But I do mean this. Like I said this in Miami. I said I love the friendship that we're building you don't pay our company a dime. I am still like, I'm rooting for you in a big way, because I see what you have here. I want to defend you from the franchise snakes, but that's part of building up a friendship. That there's a trust factor, and if we end up doing business together, we end up doing business together. But I'm cheering for you, because I think the human side is undervalued in franchising, and nearly impossible to showcase on a website. But if someone is watching this or falls into this and says, "Hey, I want to be in business," I'd be proud to be in business with you. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks
for all the shit I give you. But
I'm surprised you said something nice.
Charles, any closing thoughts?
No, look, I think we timestamped this video because I think Dan's being very modest. I think for the value of the process, I think becomes for Dan to realize that their story is unique and special. And for the right franchisee, so let's go tell that story and be genuine about it. And the brand's can be 1,000 times stronger. And we're going to gain, prediction. The garage floor company is going to gain traction in 2025. Brokers are going to take note of the garage floor company, precision in terms of what they identify as their differentiators, how they're approaching the brokers, and start closing those deals and gaining good traction in a competitive industry.
Protectanddefendfloors.com. It's in the URL.
Well, you came up with Power of the Shield, so I mean, we'll take that one too.
I'll just keep on giving you. I'll give you all the nuggets. We gotta get more customers, more franchisees. Do you want to put on your hat to say Happy New Year's? It looks like a good Happy New Year's hat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
Look at that. I love it. Dan, thanks for doing this. For Dan and Charles and Nick. Join us at FranCamp. If you haven't watched this, we would love to have you.
And there. Bill Clinton too.
Hey, Bill, we reached out about a discounted speaker fee if you want to speak. Charles is a avid fan of cigars.